Hello, everyone. This is Constitutional Attorney Katherine Henry. Today's broadcast is a little bit different because I'm actually going to be speaking at a Pancakes and Patriots event in West Michigan right now. But of course, I'm going to be appearing through my internet link. So I'm just waiting for Brian and the other organizers to have their technical stuff set up and be ready to go. And then we will get right into the swing of things. The event is on our Restore Freedom calendar, the description of what the event is about, and some of the other speakers. I believe in the event on the Restore Freedom calendar, you'll see the website where you'll be able to click and go right to the website itself. That's not put on by us, but by the event organizers, to see some of the other speakers. And they also have a live feed going, which is why they're taking a minute to try to figure out how to get me included in on that. And we'll go from there. The purpose of what they asked me to speak about today was tyranny and government overreach. And anybody who's watched, well, any of my videos, any of the few hundred videos we've put out in the last 2 years, I'm pretty sure almost every single one of those we have talked about government overreach and tyranny, although I don't typically phrase it in terms of that word. So I do have with me a sidekick today. Emma's in the far background, hopefully doing some schoolwork she didn't get done yesterday. But I do have the super handsome Mr. Henry, who is hiding off camera. And if I ever look over to that side, that is why. He's telling me that the organizers are going to be ready to go in just a minute. So we'll be able to get right into things. And for those of you who are watching live through our Facebook, YouTube, or Rumble, whatever we have it going on today, I do apologize for the ungracefulness that this will probably have because it's not my event. So we've never quite done it this way where I'm speaking at an event electronically. So I'm not sure. You gave me the signal.
Sounds like they're about ready to go.
Okay. Don't give me signals. Just speak to me. Okay. So he's definitely not a good football coach because the whatever baseball, football signals that were given over there, I wasn't, at least I'm not on his team. So I don't understand what he was trying to tell me. All right. So if for some reason there is any kind of issue with us connecting, oh, it looks like we got Brian now. Let's see.
Okay. Take your camera off. Yeah. Kill your camera.
How do we kill our camera?
Go into menu over on the bottom left of Zoom.
And can you pull up your full screen now?
Yeah, and then hit full screen.
Yep, that corner.
There we go. Perfect.
Oh, wait, we gotta stop the music.
I'll call everybody back.
Hey, but we gotta stop the music first.
Yep.
Can you guys have the video on just for a minute so I can make sure we're all connected?
Right. Can you play my ad? Just one introduction. ATK, yeah. That would be great.
Yeah, there's a blue flag jacket walking in. Can you go up into the foyer?
Make it full screen.
Now, thank you. Blame me, but don't you take accountability for this. This is not me. All right, and again, folks, if you could please come forward a little bit. We're trying to fill up the screen with people sitting in these tables. The cameras are back there focused on the podium. So if you could, please come forward. We'd appreciate it. What happened to my people? Thank you, ma'am. What happened to my people who are eating over here? Are they out in the foyer? Hey! You guys in the foyer, get in here!
That be in here, but I hear audio just in the fake background. And then the video shut off, so I'm not sure what's what. So for those of you who are not, who are watching this happening and you're not at the event and whatnot, I ask you to just bear with me a little bit longer because the host of the event has connected. He is set up in our stream, but I haven't actually seen, but for a brief second, I haven't seen them. And I can only hear people in the background faintly. So I'm not sure if it's just because somebody else is already speaking and what's going on, but I do appreciate you guys being patient because we do have some important stuff that we can talk about today. Hopefully talking about this subject in a way that ties together the various ideas that we've been talking about for years. Things that you've heard me say before. There's probably not a whole lot of brand new stuff if you're someone who has been hanging around the freedom fighting scene for the last couple of years, but I doubt that I've ever put it together in quite this way when presenting it to the public. And I think there's going to be some value in hearing it that way. If I have a chance, I may end up sharing some sort of, PowerPoint or notes of some kind. Otherwise, maybe we'll end up doing this coming week's episode for that. Can you answer it? Hang in there just a second, guys.
There it is.
Oh, hey, Trucker Randy.
Hey, answer your cell phone. Brian wants to talk to you.
Mike was just talking to him.
Okay, yeah, tell them that I'm going to do your introduction, to tee you up, and then we'll full screen with you.
Take that screen off.
Okay?
Nice.
Can you hear that?
Your screen off.
Can you guys see and hear me okay in this video feed?
Yes, nod your head yes on the camera. Young man, nod your head yes.
Split screen again.
Okay.
Hey, Catherine.
Yeah.
Hi. Let Randy Trucker's going to do your intro, and then you can come on.
Can you guys see and hear me okay?
He's going to do your intro, and then you can start talking. Because we can hear you.
Okay. And you can see me okay?
Interrupt that lady, go get your picture, get up here, and leave the video rolling. Brian, excuse me, Brian, these three ladies need their picture taken with you real quick. Can you interrupt that conversation, take a selfie? Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, lady, take your picture. That's right. We're all going to get a picture.
She can
Okay,
hear us.
smile.
Yeah, but the only way she can hear us is with this. That's what I've been noticing.
Okay, yeah. All right, ladies, come on up front. Thank you.
I see.
Come on up here, sir.
So we can't talk to her unless we're in that split screen.
We're trying to fill out the video screen in the back and zoom in on the podium, so we need you to kind of fill up these things. All right. Katherine Henry. How many of you know who Katherine Henry is? Yes. She's a constitutional attorney. She's founder of Peace for Freedom, a homeschooling law, Christian business.
You'll have to do split screen and then let her know that she can.
Already an advocate for our constitutionally protected God-given liberties and rights. She was outraged by the government's blatantly unconstitutional response
Technology,
to COVID
sometimes it sucks.
virus. Since
Yeah, but I
March
don't know any of it,
2020,
so-
she has devoted
No.
her entire life to
Yeah.
defending the public on the Constitution and
Are there people
laws.
on your screen and yelling?
Holding
Stuff
government
that
officials
happened.
accountable for violating the constitutional oaths of office.
This feels like we're all unprepared for this.
She spoke
You can't be prepared for some of this stuff because you don't know the response, how things are going to react.
She hosted a website full of freedom fighting resources and hundreds of educational videos. She's launched a weekly constitutional podcast and newsletter and created a constitutional app for Apple and Android phones. From drafting state constitutional amendments to arguing in front of the Michigan Supreme Court against the governor's executive orders. She's been fighting to restore our freedom since day one. She's a fierce advocate for the truth and the rule of law for over 20 years and fights every day to restore our government of and by and for we the people. Welcome, Katherine Henry.
All right, this is my first time being presenting in this way, so you guys will have to let me know if you can hear me okay.
Yes.
All right, sounds good.
Go ahead.
Awesome. Okay, so I was asked a few months ago to talk about, to speak at this, and I said, well, hey, Brian, what do you want me to speak about? And it was a pretty simple answer.
We have walls here, so we
It was tyranny and government overreach. So that's a pretty broad topic considering everything that's happened to us, especially in the last 2 years. But I wanted to pull together the information and maybe talk about it in a way that we haven't really looked at it all together before, even in different speeches and things that I've given or presentations that I've made. The first thing we need to remember is, what is the purpose of government? And the first part of that is the government was created to protect our individual liberties. First and foremost, that's what its job is. As you all know, I'm sure, the Declaration of Independence tells us that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. And it's to secure these rights that governments are instituted among men. To secure the rights. It's just as true today as it was when that was initially written. In fact, our Michigan Supreme Court in 2018, in the citizens case about the constitutional amendment that Michigan was going to have on the ballot later that year, the Michigan Supreme Court said in that case, a constitution's most basic functions are to create the form and structure of government, define and limit the powers of government, and provide for the protection of rights and liberties. So even our Michigan Supreme Court understood that at least as much as 4 years ago. Of course, our United States Constitution in the preamble, there's quite a few things listed in there, but dare I say, the most important part reminds us that we, the people, created our Constitution to secure the blessings of liberty. Yeah, guys on my end on Facebook, sorry, I guess there's an echo. Hopefully you guys are hearing it okay in Michigan live right now. I'm not sure if there's anything much I can do. I just muted the other side. So if you guys are trying to talk to me, I guess you'll have to turn on the video and then I'll know to unmute you. So there's no echo. So sorry about that. So in our Michigan State Constitution, most of you, if not all of you, have heard me talk about our state constitution preamble, which I think is exceedingly clear and awesome for a variety of reasons. But it reminds us that being grateful to Almighty God for our blessings of freedom and earnestly desiring to secure these blessings undiminished to ourselves and our posterity, we the people established our state constitution and our state government. What about that phrase that Trucker Randy kind of emphasized in doing my introduction? Well, of the people, by the people, and for the people. Those aren't just words that we say. It's not just cliche or something that came out of the history books. Government was created by the people. We are all endowed, of course, like I said, by our Creator with these certain inalienable rights. And our Declaration of Independence reminds us that it is to secure these rights that governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Our U.S. Constitution, of course, we start our preamble with "We the people of the United States." And of course, our state constitution, as I just said, we start that preamble off. We create our whole constitution and state government with the words, "We the people of the state of Michigan? Well, we also need to remember that government acts on behalf of the people, and wow, have they not been doing that? But I can tell you that in just 2020, ironically enough, when we saw the government not acting on behalf of the people in ways that it has far surpassed any of its prior bad steps, the Michigan Court of Appeals in 2020 reminded us that government does, in fact, act on behalf of the people, not just on its own accord. And of course, government derives all of its authority from the people. A constitution, as the Michigan Supreme Court told us in 2018, a constitution is made for the people and by the people. Those are literally the words of the Michigan Supreme Court just 4 years ago. In fact, the court continued to tell us that a constitution and the government it creates derives its force from the people who ratified it. And that the Constitution contains, quote, the principles on which the government shall act and by which it shall be bound. The Constitution, it contains those parameters. The government's not just here willy-nilly doing whatever it pleases. And finally, in that Michigan Supreme Court case from 2018, the court tells us that a constitution's most basic functions are, just as the Declaration of Independence tells us, to create that form and structure of government, define and limit the powers of government, but of course, providing for the protection of our rights and liberties. That brings us to the constitutional oath of office. It's something that most people don't know exactly what's in it, what it means. Certainly, and I don't mean this in any disrespectful fashion, government officials, elected or appointed, just government employees, even somebody who might be volunteering on behalf of the government in some way, they often, more often than not, they don't understand that constitutional oath. And besides the fact that they might have signed their name to something and put their hand up and sworn the oath to do so, they don't really know what's in that oath and what it means. It's actually pretty simple, but yet profound at the same time. Our U.S. Constitution is where we need to look to start because it's in Article 6, not an amendment, the original Constitution as adopted in the United States. It tells us in Article 6, after it explains what all the branches of government are for, what their authorities are in much detail, it tells us that all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution. While our Michigan Constitution says that's perfectly fine, we're also going to require the same thing because it is exceedingly clear that all officers, all legislative, executive, and judicial, before entering the duties of their respective offices, shall take and subscribe the following oath or affirmation, which, again, clear as day, I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state. Article 11, Section 1, written right into our state constitution. But what's even more, and I don't often praise the legislature for doing things because much of what they have done has been totally unconstitutional, not just the current legislative group of individuals, but for decades. However, what they did in MCL 15.151 was spectacular. It was spot on. And it is to simply require every single person who works in government in any way, in any branch, in any capacity, they have to take that constitutional oath of office that is required by certain officers in our Michigan state constitution. Are you a school bus driver? Are you a government employee that handles garbage collections? Are you, do you work for MDHHS? Whether you work for a small government office in the middle of nowhere in a town that has 500 people, or whether you work for the state government and you are in a position over all 10 million people, it doesn't matter. You have to take that constitutional oath of office. Even if you think you have no authority in your job to do anything, you have to abide by your constitutional oath in whatever your task is. We also can look to, and this is something I don't typically go over, United States Code 5 USC section, 333(1). Of course, 3 being my favorite number. So this is a great federal statute. Very clearly tells us that an individual, all individuals who are elected or appointed to an office of honor or profit in the civil service or in the uniformed services, they have to take an oath. What is that oath? I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That is something that is far understated and not understood by most people, but not just to support, but to defend. That is an affirmative action that we must take, any individual must take, when they take that oath and they see any other government official stepping outside of their bounds of the authority that the people gave them. They have a duty to do something, to not just follow the Constitution themselves, but to defend it from all others who are violating their oath of office. Well, I've also been asked a lot to talk about citizen empowerment tools. What does this mean? How can we, the people, as individuals, as a stay-at-home mom, or a chiropractor who owns a small practice in a small community, or someone who sits on a huge city council or township board, or county commissioners? I've had people reach out to me who fit all of those definitions, asking, what am I supposed to do in my particular role? Well, we need to remember that it is we, the people, who retain ultimate sovereignty. Even now, in any stretch of the imagination, in any sense of looking at what the government can do or not do, any rules and regulations that are placed upon us, we need to remember that. And they're not just words. We actually need to see it through. We, the people, hold sovereign power. And again, that 2018 Michigan Supreme Court case tells us that. It reminds us of that. In the United States Constitution, in Article 4, Section 4, it tells us that we are guaranteed that Republican form of government. Of course, a Republican form of government is, by definition, one where we retain that ultimate control and authority and elect people to step in and do the day-to-day tasks of government. They don't have all the power and control, though. We retain that power and control. In fact, if we look at the United States Constitution in that 9th Amendment, which I love talking about, but that's more so in the context of all of our unenumerated rights, we need to focus on the words retained by the people. So, of course, the 9th Amendment and subsequently Article 1, Section 23 of the Michigan State Constitution, both of them tell us that enumerating certain rights in our Constitution doesn't mean we're limited to just those rights. No, we are going to retain all rights given to us by God, and the government's job is to make sure that those rights are not denied or disparaged in any way. But not just looking at rights. And I guess before I move on, I should point out the government has no rights at all. Not a single government official is given rights under the Constitution. And certainly no government as an entity is given rights by God. God gives us our rights being created. When he creates us, we as individuals each have those individual liberties that are given to us by God. But if we go back to the Constitution and we look at the 10th Amendment, which I like to remind people comes after the 9th Amendment, and dare I say for a very important reason, We are first told in the 9th Amendment, we, the people, retain all of our rights. But then we tell them in the 10th Amendment that the powers not specifically given to a certain branch or level of government are retained either to the reserved, either to the states or to the people. We, the people, again, are in the 10th Amendment, which is often too far overlooked. And of course, if you look at parts of the Michigan State Constitution, such as Article 2, Section 9, it tells us that the people reserve to themselves powers. We're reserving them. We already have the power. Okay, so what are the specific tools in the Michigan State Constitution? Well, number one, and we've definitely heard about this if you're live at the event or you're just popping in through my live feed on my channels, I can guarantee you have heard about recalls, maybe even participated in a recall. But our state constitution specifically reserved that right and power to us in Article 2, Section 8, where we are given the power to recall all elective officers, except for judges. That is done in a different fashion. Also in Article 2, Section 9 of our state constitution, we're given, we're retaining that specific power of initiative. In fact, that is to propose laws and to enact and reject laws. We've had several of those types of petitions throughout the state of Michigan in the last 2 years. But referendum, Article 2, Section 9, gives us that power to approve or reject laws that are enacted by the legislature. That's one we need to do more often. And it's timely. I believe it's 90 days within the final date that the legislature is in session. But we need to be watching what's happening. We need to be watching as bills are introduced. We need to be talking about them as they're going into committee. We need to be speaking at committee hearings. We need to go to sessions of the legislature far more often than the average person does. And if it doesn't work to stop bad law from being enacted in that regard, we have the power of referendum. We can stop it after it has been enacted. We, the people, retained that specific power in our state constitution. Of course, we have other tools, right? I would strongly suggest that you join with a small group of individuals in your local community and you break up how to tackle going to meetings, because let's face it, there's so many different types of government offices and agencies. It's impossible for any one person to be in tune with what's going on in each of them, but you should find a way to connect with your city or township, meetings. Is there a downtown development authority? Is there a planning commission, a zoning board of appeals? What kinds of boards do you have at that local level, let alone the township board of trustees or your city council? You need to make sure that you're connecting, at least reading the minutes and the agendas to see what's going on. All right, guys, my time is up. I'm going to unmute the other side here. I thank you so much for having me. Hopefully all the technical difficulties were still worth it, and I appreciate all of you being on board with our continuing fight for freedom.
Thank you, Thank you. Have a good day. All right, next up on the agenda.
Okay, guys, so if you are watching from the live feeds through my own site, I don't think there was anything else. Actually, there is one other point that I was going to try to get in, and that is, well, that's something I'm hoping each of you can impress upon all those people that are speaking at that event, especially the ones that are running for office. Whether it's an office large or small that someone is running for, I want you to be on their case about their constitutional oath, about their obligations. They might come running into office because they think there's, just a greater good that they can serve by doing that. They just feel called. I know that my friend Ryan Kelly is running for governor because, as he told me, I don't even know, a year ago or so, he was feeling called to do that. Not because he had a ton of free time, because he's got a lot of kids and they're beautiful. But kids take time, right? He's a family man and he owns his own business, and he was already serving on a local board in Allendale. But he felt called. Okay, being called is great. But when you're in office, regardless of all the good intentions you're bringing with you, you have to remember your obligations, your duties. And the first is to defend and support the U.S. and Michigan constitutions. No matter what you're doing, no matter what your intentions are or how good they may be, none of that matters at all if you can't follow the U.S. and Michigan constitutions. Because when you're a government official, your powers come from, your authority comes from that which we the people have outlined for you, which we the people have decided to specifically hand over to you for that specific role. And if you're stepping outside of that authority, none of your intentions matter. You can't do it. So to those of you who have hung in there with me this whole time, I appreciate you joining me on our own social media channels. And I value your partnership in this fight for freedom. So please make sure to keep involved. No matter how busy you are, find a way to be involved and figure out who you're supporting in the various elections. Certainly, if you are going to a state convention in, I think, a week, please make sure you really know who the candidates are. Don't vote for somebody just because they're your friend. For example, I wouldn't be voting. I would normally be voting in state convention, but I'm not there now. I'm in Florida. So I'm not voting for who I think should be representing the Republican ticket for Secretary of State or Attorney General or, state Supreme Court or any of those things. But I could tell you who I would vote for. And I can also tell you I'm friends with these people. But I would say I'm friends, at least to some degree, with all the three candidates running for Michigan Attorney General. I know Matt, at least to some degree, and have had that opportunity of meeting him back in 2020 in that regard. I've known Tom Leonard since 2015, at least since 2015, if not before. And I appreciated all the encouragement he gave me when I ran for state rep in 2015 and 2016. I know Ryan Berman, never heard of him before 2020, but I'll tell you what, he was one of the strongest supporters or co-workers, I guess you could say, that I had in trying to get the legislature to do the right thing in 2020, in April of 2020, to not extend their approval of the governor's executive orders and, quite frankly, to do a lot of other things. So even though I think all three of them are good guys, and I would consider all three of them friends in some capacity, I definitely would urge you to consider supporting Ryan Berman on a variety of factors. But let me just tell you, the easiest way for me to say it without disparaging the others is that I simply know he is the best man for the job. Now, do I agree with him on everything? No. I don't agree with my husband on everything, but I know that he's the best man to continue in his job as my husband. But I do know that Ryan Berman would be the best man for the job. With Christina running for Secretary of State, I consider her a friend. She and I were both, we found each other or met each other when we were on the Fifth Seat, co-hosting a show that was starting in conservative circles back in 2020. And she is a true conservative. She is a good freedom fighter. And I wouldn't say vote for her because she's my friend. I'd say vote for her because, hands down, she is the best woman for the job. She is the best person for that job. I would also tell you that Brian Zara is going to be the best person for the job of Michigan Supreme Court that I have seen of the candidates to date. And as far as governor goes, I've said it before, but I would ask you to strongly consider actively supporting my friend Ryan Kelly, not because he's my friend. He and I have certainly had disagreements. At least there's one that I can think of. That was a huge one for me. I don't need to go into a bunch of details and bore you about that, but I can tell you that even though that one thing was a huge thing that I disagreed with, he is still hands down the best freedom fighter that is running for governor in the state of Michigan. He would do the best job, hands down. So whoever you think is going to be the best candidate for any particular position, whether it's a state or local or national type of office, it doesn't matter. I'm going to ask you to wholeheartedly put some efforts into supporting, making phone calls, doing door knocking, telling your friends and family and neighbors and people you go to church with, your coworkers, all about 1 or 2 or 10 candidates from different races that you think would each do a good job in their respective races. That's the empowerment that you have right now in this election year. So I am going to double check and make sure I don't see any comments. You don't have any that have come up that you're watching. Okay, so again, everybody, thank you so much for all your support and all the freedom fighting that we're doing. And if you haven't already, please head over to any of our social media posts recently or the newsletter that you might have received last, well, I think it was Monday morning by the time I actually got it out. I was asking for your thoughts on whether I should participate as an amicus in the Iron Pig case that's bouncing back and forth between the Michigan Court of Appeals and the Michigan Supreme Court. It is the case where MDHHS is asking the courts to overturn what happened in the circuit court and once again declare that the public health code that gives them the authority to issue those orders, that it's all good to go. And the prior court decisions on point have been a huge mistake. So if you think I should get involved or not, if you have any opinion on that whatsoever, please do fill out that opinion, that survey, I should say. Another survey that's out there isn't so much a survey, but I've decided that I will be doing an amicus brief in the case that Governor Whitmer filed just 9 days ago now in Oakland County Circuit Court, asking the court to declare that women have a right to abortion in the state of Michigan under the Michigan Constitution and to stop the Michigan prosecuting attorneys from ever enforcing MCL 750.14, which is the criminal abortion statute. I'm asking you to sign on board with that if you believe in the fight for freedom, specifically the fight for the right to life. If we don't have life, we have no other freedoms, right? I mean, the right to life is the very first and foremost of them all. So if you join in my sentiments in that regard, if you believe in the language of our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution and our state constitution, and you believe in that right to life and you want to put your name to it, you want to show the circuit court, and I'm sure it will follow up to the Court of Appeals and the Michigan Supreme Court. If you want to put your name to that fight for the right to life, please fill out the survey that we have posted for that this week and give me your information. If you want to speak on behalf of a business or organization, please do so there, or just as a person, as an individual. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me today. And just double checking our comments. Hi from Denver. I appreciate Stephen from Denver and a lot of you from Michigan and others from other states and areas on our various social media channels today. Again, please fill out those surveys. Please do your best to support good candidates in all races, even if you're a candidate yourself for a certain race. And please make sure to remember why we have hope in it all. Of course, tomorrow, we need to remember that Jesus rose from the grave, and through him we have our eternal life. And through him, all of our hope in all of our life's battles is sustained. So hang on to that hope and remember in all of that goodness and greatness that came from God. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day.